Let's get into this. Thunderbolts. The first screenings and the first critic reactions happened about, I want to say, a week ago. Earlier this week, definitely. And they're looking really good. This Thunderbolts movie was very interesting from the very start, just because of the fact that, you know, it's a team of B-list kind of heroes and Disney Plus series characters. You know, you had Wyatt Russell, who was playing John Walker. He was originally in Falcon and a Winter Soldier, in like a supporting role, and that came out in 2021, I believe. Yeah, it came out in 2021. So that was 4 years ago, and you haven't really seen John Walker since then. So now that he's in a movie, in a wide released theatrical movie, might I add, it kind of begs the question, like, how many people are going to recognize him and you know, actually want to go to this movie? Well, the movie was made. You know, Florence Pugh is also like the star of this movie. You also have Red Guardian. You have Sebastian Stan as Bucky. So you have a bunch of, you know, familiar faces. But again, these are familiar faces in movies and shows that are like it's like the Guardians of the Galaxy. Nobody knew who the Guardians of the Galaxy were at the time of the movie being released. Nobody knew that. Okay, now they are the most loved characters in all of the MCU, at least some of the most loved characters in all of the MCU. So with this movie, The Thunderbolts, they're kind of trying to aim at that kind of crowd. And it looks like we have some really good reviews. We're going to go ahead and go over to the browser. Are we? Am I lying? I'm not lying. Oh, maybe I am lying. Nah, I'm not lying. All right. Here we go. Thunderbolts. It's currently at an 89%, which is pretty much on par with the other MCU movies that we would recognize as really damn good. It's got an 89% with 126 reviews on there. And I just wanted to kind of go in and read some of these reviews, because 89% is kind of crazy compared to a lot of the other MCU projects that have been coming out. I mean, we had Captain America Brave New World that came out, and that was hovering around like a 50 to 60% last time I checked. Then we had like Eternals, and we had a bunch of stuff, okay, a bunch of movies. But this is one of the better reviewed Marvel movies that we've seen in a while. So let's go ahead and read some of these reviews, okay? We're gonna start off with one of the top critics, Richard Lawson, who actually gave it a negative review. So we're gonna start off negative a little bit. Alas, downbeat little side adventures are not going to get the Marvel engine back up to full speed, and so Thunderbolts must inevitably draw the rest of the universe toward it, which makes all of its discrete actions seem thin and insufficient. Well, what a review, Mr. Richard Lawson. We do have to give him his flowers, though, because we, at least on this channel, I don't know about any other channels, but we like to keep it unbiased, right? And hey, if Richard thinks that this is a thin and insufficient movie, then who's to say that he's wrong? So let's go ahead and move on to the next. Review. Philip D. Semlian. Semlian. I'm going to say Semlian. How do you avoid a sense of grating overfamiliarity after 35 movies? The answer to a point is Thunderbolts. So basically what he's saying, at least from what I'm getting out of it, is that this movie isn't like a lot of the other MCU movies. So that's a good sign right there. He gave it a 3 out of 5. That's still a positive review. And keep in mind, Rotten Tomatoes isn't the greatest indicator of if a movie is good or not. Because I can say that I liked a movie, 6 out of 10. And Rotten Tomatoes is going to count that as a positive review. But I can rate it a 6 out of 10 and put some stuff in my review like, hey, it's decent, but it could have been way better, and I just think that they, executed things really poorly. However, I still had a lot of fun with it, and I still enjoyed the film. 6 out of 10. And Rotten Tomatoes is going to flag that as a positive review. So just keep in mind, a lot of this is definitely different. A lot of people's positives are definitely different, and that's the cool thing about the movie community, is that we all have different opinions. We all think about things differently. Nobody really thinks the same. And yeah, so Philip does see this movie as a positive, but yeah, not that crazy of a positive. He's not giving it 5 stars. He's just giving it like a 3. All right, next up, Randy Myers. Thunderbolts doesn't rush the action, but it does deliver the staples that superhero fans crave while respecting the need to create a bolder story than what the superhero genre has been delivering of late. Now, that's kind of what we're going to be seeing so far. That's kind of what we're going to be looking at when it comes to, watching this movie and reviewing this movie, because these trailers seem as though they're giving off a serious, kind of darker vibe. Definitely different than a lot of the other MCU movies. You got people like Yelena, who has literally killed people. Bucky, who has mass murdered people. And they have terrible backstories. And then we have the newcomer, Bob. But he's really playing Sentry. Like, if you guys didn't see the trailers, he's really playing Sentry. And if you guys know Sentry, in the comics, he has a backstory that is just tragic. So all of these characters are tragic, right? They got tragic backstories. So that's going to, obviously, that's going to kind of make for a more dark movie. And it's going to be a little bit different than, what we've seen before. All right. Katie Smith Wong gave it a positive review. A funny, action-packed, and surprisingly poignant installment. She spelled installment wrong. Did she spell it wrong? I don't know. I don't want to. Never mind. That will appease. That's embarrassing if she didn't spell it wrong. That's embarrassing. That will appease fans with Marvel fatigue, with Pugh shining once again with a powerhouse performance. This is what I love to hear. Florence Pugh, that's a huge get for the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and the fact that they actually gave her something to do with like some weight, some emotional weight. Keep in mind too, this movie is directed by Jake Schreier, right? If you don't know who that is, Jake Schreier made one of the greatest Netflix series, in my opinion. He made one of the greatest Netflix series that has come out in recent memory, called Beef. And it is just layered with character development, layered with different character scenarios and stuff like that. And it's interwoven in, I believe, like 6 or 8 episodes, something like that. And this whole story, it just gets you locked in. So Jake Schreier, he directed this movie. And the fact that she is saying, Miss Katie Smith Wong is saying that Florence Pugh has some, like a powerhouse performance, it tells me that there's something here other than just what we've been getting from Florence Pugh in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, right? Like those little, the cute kind of moments with what's her name? Kate Bishop in Hawkeye, like those moments, her in the entire Black Widow movie, like we had some character, but not a lot because it wasn't focused on Florence Pugh's character. It seems like here, we're focused on Florence Pugh's character. All right, we're gonna read one more here. All right, Devesh Sharma. Watch the film for its goofy fun, for its well-staged CGI fights, and its sassy one-liners. Marvel can never reach the emotional intensity of Infinity War Endgame, so they should just stop trying to enter that territory. And this is kind of what I mean. Like that, I read that as, I read that as kind of negative, right? I read that as kind of negative, but it's a positive review. He gave it a 3.5 out of 5. But to be honest, I kind of read that as a negative review. It's like, watch the film for its goofy fun, its well-staged CGI fights. That's actually a pretty positive thing. And its sassy one-liners, I would call that as a positive for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But then he goes on to say, Marvel can never reach the emotional intensity of Infinity War or Endgame, so they should stop trying. To me, that seems kind of negative, but I guess you never know, right? Like, you just never really know. I don't know, man. I'm curious to see what kind of emotional depth we're really getting into when I go in to watch it later tonight. I'm very curious to see what they do with, these 6 characters. 6? Yeah, something like that. 6. I'm very curious to see what they do with these 6 characters because, yeah, as of right now, the ones that had the most, the ones that kind of had the most, I would say, character development is Sebastian Stan's Bucky and John Walker. Wyatt Russell's John Walker. Like, don't get me wrong, Florence Pugh and as Yelena in Black Widow had a good amount to do. I just don't think she was a big. Whoops. I just don't think she was a big. She was a big part of that movie, and I think John Walker had a lot of character development in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and then of course, the Winter Soldier had like 6 movies as an arc, and then on top of that had Falcon and the Winter Soldier. But let me know what you guys think about these reviews. What are people saying? Let me know how you think that these reviews are being interpreted, man. I mean, some of them are pretty positive. Others, they're kind of positive. Others are kind of negative. But it's holding an 89% on Rotten Tomatoes. Whether you want to admit it or not, that's a very good score for a Marvel movie right now. We have... I think the last one that we had was Deadpool and Wolverine, but I think Deadpool and Wolverine even only had like a 78, something like that. So an 89% with 126 reviews, that's very, very good. That is very, very good. Let me know what you guys think about Thunderbolts, and if you guys are watching the replay, let me know what you guys thought about it. I know that you guys are going to be watching it, and let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section.